I am so honored to be able to be part of this ceremony at this wonderful institution, one with such a deep commitment to children and to the goals of social justice. I love that the Erikson Institute is devoted to the development of the whole child, the child who is a marvelous melange of busybody, curious mind, and questing spirit, one who is a member of many groups and communities, the family, the neighborhood, the classroom, the playground, the block area, the sandbox. You have had the opportunity to learn about children from every angle, to be able to see their needs, their strengths, and their potential, to pave their way into healthy and joyful lives. You've had the opportunity to learn how to make a difference in the life of a child, and in doing that, to make a difference in the life of a nation. You carry this commitment and this legacy with you into your jobs as teachers and counselors, as social workers, as organizational and policy leaders. And this commitment is increasingly important in a world where individual and societal success depends on our capacity to learn. In today's knowledge-based society, 70% of jobs now require specialized knowledge and skill. Not like the days in Chicago or Cleveland where I grew up, where you could get a good job, buy a house, raise a family with less than a high school education because there were plenty of places to work in the factories that did not require specialized learning. And therefore, our collective future relies, as never before, on our capacity to teach, and to teach powerfully. So I want to take a special moment to acknowledge the great work of teachers, both the many teachers at Erikson who helped you to get to this wonderful launching point you have arrived at today, and all the teachers in all the years before who helped you to reach the university, prepared to think, invent, and create, and who in these recent years have been cooperating teachers and role models and supporters for your development into professionals. Let us acknowledge all of those teachers. Teaching is the greatest profession because it is the one on which all other professions depend. Indeed, everyone who is anyone was enabled to become someone by a teacher. As you graduate, you are entering and continuing in a profession. There are many ways to think about what it means to be a professional. One is reflected in this story. There were several dozen people on a small pleasure cruise in the South Pacific who ran afoul of a sandbar. The engine was knocked out of their little ship and they lost the oars, which floated away. They were drifting away from the land, jumping and yelling to no effect. And it was clear that someone was going to have to swim to shore. So they turned to the professionals. First, the doctor, who said, "I'm in excellent health. I'm a good swimmer. I'm strong and decisive." He jumped into the water and began to swim to shore and was immediately devoured by the sharks. And then the preacher said, "I will go. I am brave, I'm faithful, God will take care of me." So he jumped into the water and he began swimming to shore, and he got a little further and was devoured by the sharks. Finally, the lawyer said, "I'll go. I'm smart, I'm clever. I think I see a way." And he jumped into the water and swam all the way to shore, and the sharks lined up and escorted him. And the small boat was saved, and the passengers asked, "How did you do that? How did you manage to get to shore without being eaten?" And the lawyer replied, "Professional courtesy." No offense intended. Some of my best friends, including my husband, are lawyers. But that little story illustrates that professional connections are, of course, part of what we gain by entering a profession. Not just to get advanced and get ahead, but also to problem solve and produce better work and better solutions. But at the heart of professions are three things. The first is a shared body of knowledge. That's what you've gained here so that you can operate not just based on your personal experience, but also based on the accumulated experience and wisdom of others in your field, the professional knowledge that has been assembled for you. That's really what Erikson stands for. What a gift You also know where to go to get more in the research and in your professional community. Use that gift well. Reach out and learn from others. Someone once said that a wise person learns from his or her own mistakes, and a wiser one learns from the mistakes and the successes of others. The second aspect of this profession is the moral and ethical commitment to use that knowledge to do what is in the best interests of those you serve, not what is cheapest, easiest, or most expedient. It's the Hippocratic Oath in medicine, that commitment to children and families, to honesty and fairness. Your knowledge will and should make the lives of others better. And finally, professionals take on themselves the responsibility to define, transmit, and enforce standards of practice in their field, to help their colleagues and the institutions they work in become better by assisting and mentoring and sharing and collaborating. And of course, that kind of collaboration, that kind of sharing, that kind of professional knowledge is especially important because teaching and working with children, whether it's infant care or whether it's toddler care or whether it's teaching in schools or doing social work that enables families to care for their children, is not just about pouring information into the empty heads of students. Effective teachers have to figure out what students already think and believe in order to help them learn the curriculum, to bring them to the curriculum and the curriculum to them. And because every child has his or her own personality, viewpoint, and a unique starting point in their journey, teaching and learning are always somewhat unpredictable. In my work, I often receive examples from educators of the ways in which children receive their efforts. As you well know, children apply their own logic, which transforms what they are taught. For example, in one of the sets of insights given to me by a teacher, she explained how children were applying their own scientific understanding. In response to the question, what are the 4 seasons? One child replied, the 4 seasons are salt, pepper, mustard, and vinegar. When asked, how do you keep milk from turning sour, another student, exercising higher order thinking skills, answered, to keep milk from turning sour, keep it in the cow. When asked how clouds are formed, a student said, I'm not sure how clouds are formed, but clouds know how to do it, and that's the important thing. This student has a great future before them. And finally, in response to the question, what is thunder, one child noted, a thunder is a rich source of loudness. And another said, thunder tells you how close the lightning is. If you don't hear it, you got hit, so never mind. This is why we want to work with children. Teaching so that students learn is invariably complicated work, and we are greatly indebted to the wonderful teachers who have lit our path towards that understanding. A particularly important challenge now is to create and maintain early childhood experiences that are developmentally appropriate and supportive. This has been a long-standing challenge, and it is, in fact, one reason for the founding of the Erikson Institute. The first school that I helped to found was a preschool and a daycare center that was created to support a creative, naturally grounded, hands-on learning experience for children in a racially and economically integrated environment that could serve students who had no parents at home after school as well as during the day. We were committed to the idea that developmentally appropriate education is not just for the wealthy, it's for all children. And I saw in many, many cases with my own children how important it is to create those kinds of contexts. I remember my son coming home one day. He had been advanced from kindergarten to first grade by a pretty traditional teacher who liked kids to sit still in kindergarten. She announced that he'd learned the kindergarten curriculum, whatever that means. I don't know how you do that. It's a lifelong task to learn the kindergarten curriculum. But he should go to first grade, so he was placed in another classroom with a lot of worksheets and drill. And he came home and he said, Mom, first grade is too hard. And I said, well, you know, what's going on? And you can always go back to kindergarten. No problem there. He said, well, the teacher told me that I have to learn to sit like a rock. I can't sit like a rock. It's too hard. And we, in fact, ended up having to find another place for him back in Montessori school where he could move and be a child and learn in the way that children are intended to learn. It's going to be even more challenging as new standards are put in place to preserve a place for childhood that offers rich learning experiences that are also authentic, engaging, grounded in exploration, that allow children to grow at their own rates. And this is what childhood experiences are in high literacy nations. Many of you may know that in Finland, which is the top achieving country in the OECD nations, children begin school at 6 and start reading at 7. It's a pretty easy task to teach reading at that point. They all learn quickly. And in the years before that, early childhood care is available for free. It is grounded in helping children learn to engage in the arts, to become thoughtful about their environments, to understand the world around them. I was with a group of congressional people who were taking a tour in Finland. They asked lots of teachers, well, what's the secret to high-scoring success in Finland? And one elementary teacher captured it perfectly. He said, I try to do 2 things as much as possible every day, singing and playing. And the congressperson didn't know what to answer at that point. But I hope carried that lesson home with us. Given the world that we live in, building that foundation for children to learn, to be curious and creative is more important than ever. And your work is critical to ensure those opportunities for all children in a society that, as you know, has become one of the most unequal in the industrialized world, with 1 in 4 children living in poverty, with a tattered safety net. What Gloria Latson-Billings has recently called the aggressive neglect of too many of our children. But your work at the very beginning of life can make an enormous difference. As the Nobel Prize-winning economist James Heckman observed, investments in early education and healthcare improve all of these outcomes because skills beget skills and capabilities foster future capabilities. All capabilities are built on the foundation of capacities that are developed earlier. Early interventions, the earliest as possible, reduce lifetime inequality. These benefits will be returned many times to our society. You will be called upon to minister to the children who are in your care and also to contribute to building a fairer, stronger, more just system of support and education for children and families, and articulating for others why it is so important that we be committed to the welfare and the education of every child. You will make a difference, you already have, and you will encounter times when there are challenges that will cause you to need to draw upon courage. The courage to stand up for children who have no one else to stand up for them, the courage to stand up for real education that goes beyond preparing students for standardized tests to preparing them for questioning and investigating the world around them and problem solving and exploring and reading wonderful, engaging books, as well as skipping and playing and singing wonderful songs. The courage to challenge developmentally inappropriate practices that are too often driven by policies that fail to understand children and how they learn and develop. The courage to fight for an equitable society. Right here in Chicago, John Dewey said, what the best and wisest parent wants for his child, that must the community want for all of its children. Any other goal is narrow and unlovely, and acted upon, it destroys our democracy. Educators and others who work with young children are the guardians of that vision for the best and wisest support, care, and education for all children. And none are more vigilant than the graduates of this great institute. I know that the education you've received here at the Erikson Institute will give you the knowledge, the skills, the tools, as well as the moral commitment to do what is right and to make a real difference in the world. Stay connected with each other, stay committed, stay courageous. Good luck to you in this wonderful work you are undertaking, and thank you for allowing me to be with you on this important day.